Hi, this is Érika from Small Robot Studio. In this video, I'll show you how to sculpt realistic eyes in Nomad Sculpt and the structure behind them to achieve ethnic and age differences. We tend to think of eyes as only this, but to fully understand them, we need to understand the volumes where they sit and around them. This volume represents the skull, and this cut represents the orbit of the eyes. An inverted trapezius gives us the glabella, the area between the brows and above the nose. We have a box for the nose bridge and a sphere for the eyes. And the ridge of the brows protrudes, working as a roof that protects the eye. Observe the angle created from a side view. This angle can change dramatically depending on the size of the brow ridge or how deep the eye sits in the orbit. Hey, make sure that you are subscribed with notifications on. Otherwise, you might be missing out on the many tutorials that we release for free each week here on YouTube. Let's change to a more detailed depiction of the volumes. The eyebrows will sit on the ridge. The ridge tends to be more prominent in males, even creating an extra volume visible from the side view. The distance between the ridge and the upper eyelid also varies between individuals, so watch out for that. I talk in detail about the glabella and the nose bridge in the nose video, so make sure to check that out. The separation between the eyes is roughly the distance of one eye. This is a very consistent measurement. On average, the eyes fits 5 times across the width of the head. But this measurement sometimes works from ear to ear, and others it works excluding the ears. So this measurement is not as consistent. Use both as a reference for the size and location of the eyeballs. Of course, the eyeballs are covered by the eyelids. The upper eyelid is thicker than the bottom one. Along with the eyelashes, it creates a second roof that protects the eye, just like the ridge. They align in a very similar angle. The eyelashes come out of the corner of the eyelids, not outside or inside. The highest and lowest points are not vertically aligned, just like the tear duct and the corner of the eyes are rarely horizontally aligned. But then again, these angles can vary a lot between different people. The epicanthic fold is probably the least known volume and yet is one of the major differentiators for ethnicity and age. They are also key in defining the shape of the eye. The epicanthic fold is the volume between the ridge of the brow and the upper eyelid. It can partially or fully cover the top eyelid and even the tear duct. An epicanthic fold that covers most of the upper eyelid is often referred to as Asian eye. Yes, this is a frequent trait in some Asian ethnicities, but it's shared by others from the Pacific Islands, Africa, and even Scandinavia. The inside tends to be flatter, while the outside is inflated. This inflated area is known to droop down, especially at older ages. There is no formula to design them. To create truly unique eyes, you have to pay lots of attention to this fold. When breaking down a reference, I like to search for rhythms, C and S curves, that flow and connect each piece of the face. For the nose, we described an S-curve that follows the side walls of the glabella out to the sides of the nose and back to the wings. This same rhythm divides with a C following the lower orbit ridge, the lower corner of the eye orbits. Depending on the nature of the epicanthic fold, we might have an S-curve or a combination of an S and a C on the eyes. My eyes need a long S-curve starting from the outer edge of the brow, following the shape of my lids, and an open long C for the overlap. When the epicanthic fold has a lot of overlap, we only need an S-curve, but the attachment to the center is way lower. This guy needs both, the S following the overlap and a small C for the tiny bit of eyelids we see. Older individuals commonly have an overlap on the outside. This man is quite interesting. He has a strong overlap, drooping down, and a skin so thin that the volume of the eye is visible regardless. Let's move on to sculpting. As always, I made sure to prepare some reference, breaking it down into simple volumes. If you are working on an iPad, you can open the photo gallery and Nomad, dividing the screen to see both. We will block in the volumes that we were analyzing before. We'll start with an orthographic camera. For the base, I will use a sphere with multi-resolution. I'll flatten the sides like a Lumi's head. With low resolution, I'll ease the curve from the front since the forehead is just slightly rounded. With the project tool from a side view, I'll carve the depression of the orbit of the eyes. This will require a higher subdivision level. I'll create two boxes, one for the glabella and one for the bridge of the nose, and with the trim tool, I'll make cuts from the front and side to shape them. I'll now create two mirrored UV spheres with very low resolution. With the gizmo tool, set the side slider to 90 degrees and rotate your sphere so the poles point to the front. Remember that for realistic proportion, the eyes will be separated by the same distance of their diameter. With multi-resolution, I'll subdivide them. And for the eyelids, I'm gonna make a duplicate, rotate it back up, and with the project tool, make the bottom flat. Scale them up to obtain the thickness of the eyelids. Duplicate this geometry and rotate it for the bottom lids. With the paint tool, I'll block the pupil and the iris in the eyeball. The topology of the UV sphere makes this way easier. This is the basic structure that we all share. You'll have to adapt the proportions and the angles to get different results. For this demo, I'm using my eyes as reference. I'll briefly show you how to get different types of epicanthic folds. For our Patreon supporters in this month, I'll make full video demonstration of different eye ethnicities. Plus, you can download the same with each step of the process. To access the rewards of the month, join us at patreon.com/smallrobotstudio. You can also buy the individual assets in our Gumroad store. Let's work on a more detailed blocking. With the flatten tool mainly, I'll shape with more detail the glabella and the nose bridge. With a clay brush, I'll bring out the volume for the side of the nose. I want to block out the rhythms that connect the lower orbit ridge. My base will require more resolution, which I'll achieve by adding levels in multi-resolution. Now I can define with more precision the eyebrow area and the skin between the lower lid and the lower orbit ridge. To obtain the shape of the eyes, we have to adjust hand by hand the eyelids and the epicanthic fold. Having the eyelids in low resolution makes the adjustment way easier. So get the general shape with the move tool. Look for the angle between the tear duct and the corner of the eye. How open or close are the eyes? And the alignment of the higher and lower points. Before you get too excited, check how deep the eyes sit on the skull. Get the shapes as far as you can in this resolution. And when you can't anymore, select all the geometries except the eyelids and the eyeballs and voxel merge them in lowish resolution. Here's what the model looks like so far. Now make sure to change your camera to perspective. We might need to change some proportions after changing the camera. And with the smooth tool, unify the volumes. We can now work in the planes with more detail. For the eyelids, use more subdivision levels in multi-resolution to work in details like pulling the sides to get the tear duct. Refine the rhythms that connect the sides of the glabella and the lower orbit ridge. Now my favorite part, the epicanthic fold. First, make sure you have the correct size of the upper lid. I have a tendency of making them too big because I work a lot with stylized designs. Now I'm gonna mask the area of the epicanthic fold that will overlap. Reverse the mask. I'll add volume with the inflate tool and pull it down with the move tool. Remember, the rhythms are the key. Figure them out before your model. Depending on the type of epicanthic fold you're working on, you'll have to mask a larger or smaller area. Once you like it, select everything again except the eyeballs and voxel merge with higher resolution than before. From this point on, it's only a matter of adjusting, refining the connections, and unifying the shapes. The key are the S and C rhythms we studied earlier, and of course, getting the proportions correctly. Look at the shape between the eyes. What's the shape of the glabella? What's the distance between the eyelids and the brow ridge? How much does it protrude? Judge your shapes from all angles, including the top and bottom. Change your madcaps. A different lighting helps. Don't work in detail until your bigger shapes work. And a final hint for the wrinkles, they echo the shape of the main rhythms. The good old crease tool is also a good ally for the brow hair. So, here we go, the final result. That's it for this tutorial. If you find it useful, make sure that you leave a like so other people can find it. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, as we are bringing out CG and illustration tutorials every week. Become a patron and access tutorial assets, bonus content, a private Discord, and more by clicking in the link below.